All righty. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let's see here. Before I do anything, let's see if y'all can hear me real fast. Let's see here. Trying to see if y'all can hear me. Hey, if y'all can hear me, can y'all like the page? I see 3 people in here. If you can hear me, just like it. Shalom, 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 everybody. Janoel, Miss Barbara. If y'all can hear me, can y'all just do a like or love? Okay, thank you, Miss Barbara. All right, so that's good. So now the brother didn't want to be on live, so y'all get to hear the discussion. What I'm finna have. So y'all can't see, but y'all can hear the discussion. Let's see here. And we finna discuss the second coming of Christ. Hello?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. How you doing?
You hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
I got her right here.
okay then. Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm Jeanette. Wonderful.
Okay, well,
Put the phone down, and I hope.
Okay then. Well, I'm not gonna hold you up, Mr. John. And what's her name again?
Yes. Jeanette.
Miss Jeanette. I'm finna hop right into it for you, and just to tell you my perspective, and we'll take it from there. Do y'all have a Bible on you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The
Well,
Bible right here. I don't have no Bible because I can't see it.
Okay then. Well, I just read the verses and stuff.
Yeah, she got the Bible right here, and the notebook and the paper on the pen.
Okay then. Okay. Well.
Hold on. I cannot tell if you can see me or her. Can you see her?
Well, I can see you, Mr. John. I can see her a little bit. I see the edge of her glasses.
Okay. What about now?
Yeah, I see her.
Okay.
I see her.
I can hear you.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So now we finna get in it. We finna discuss Christ has his second return, that it has occurred, and we're gonna use the Bible to prove it. So, Brother John, while I'm talking to you, I'm also online on my other page, so this should be good. So,
okay.
The first thing I want to go to first, I want to go to Daniel 7. I want to go to Daniel 7 first. All right. And what Daniel 7 does, it actually gives the background on the whole concept of the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't go in detail, but it gives you the overall view of the kingdom of heaven. So what I want to do, I want to touch Daniel 7, and I just want to touch Daniel 7 and 7, and then I'm going to go to 10, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so let me know when y'all ready for me to start.
Okay. Daniel 7:7?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, it says this. And this I saw in the night's vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. So, are you familiar with the 4 beasts of Daniel?
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give you the quick run through. Verse 4, that first beast was Babylon. Verse 5, The second beast was Medo-Persia. Verse 6. The third beast. Okay.
You say the first beast
was Babylon.
Okay, Babylon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And the second beast was Medo-Persia, or Medo-Persia. The third beast was Greece. And that fourth, yep, and that fourth beast will be the Roman Empire. So what we're reading right now, we're reading things dealing with the Roman Empire. So now, verse 7, it brought in the introduction to the Roman Empire. So now, I want to go to verse 9. Verse 9 says, I beheld, Daniel 7 and 9.
Okay, so why did you skip verse 8?
So why we didn't go over verse 8?
Yes.
Oh, because well, you're not going to understand what it's saying right now, but we can touch on it if you like.
Oh, I was just wondering.
Oh well, yes, ma'am. I want to hit the high points with you first, because all of the other verses it just get into detail, and I just want to hit the high points so we can just bring in the era of the Messiah.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so now when we go to verse 9, it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Verse 10. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. So right there, that's Judgment Day right there. We have the judgment being set, and then the book of life and the book of remembrance and all those books being opened. So that happens during Judgment Day. Are we on the same point so far?
Okay, like him is Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, this will be right now. We're talking about the Ancient of Days, which is the Father.
Okay.
So now, but what it says was that the judgment was set and the books were open. So we know at Judgment Day, people are expecting the judgment to be set, right, and the book of life to be open, and everybody to be judged at the book, correct?
In the ancient days. Okay, you're talking about like the first or second century.
No, see, I ain't on that just yet. What I'm talking about is, at the end of times, everybody is saying that during the time of judgment, the Most High is supposed to have everybody in front of him, and he's supposed to open up the books and judge everybody out of the books, right?
Okay.
All right, so now we have Daniel 7 linking that time up with the Roman Empire, because all this occurs during the fourth beast. So while the fourth beast is reigning, we have the books being open and the judgment being set. So this is very important to understand the coming of Christ. So now, once you go to Daniel 7 and 13. And let me know when you're there, and I'll take it. All right, and it says, I saw in the night. Okay, yes, ma'am. I saw in the night's visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. See that Son of Man right there? That would be the Christ right there.
Okay.
So he said, I saw one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom which shall not be destroyed. So, what Daniel saw in the vision dealing with the Roman Empire, he saw the judgment being set, he saw the books being opened, and then he saw Christ come to the Father, and the Father gave him the kingdom. So everything you read in the New Testament about the kingdom of heaven is this same kingdom right here in Daniel 7 and 14. Every kingdom, about everything you read about the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, this will be that kingdom. So what we do now, all right, so now Daniel is seeing a vision. So the vision is explained to him in Daniel 7, and I want to start at 26. Daniel 7 and 26.
Okay.
All right, now, this is what it says, because now this is the explanation of the vision that he just saw. It said, but the judgment shall sit. So after the dividing of times and all that stuff, the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. Verse 27, this is what we want to concentrate on. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven. So that's everywhere. Under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. So now, Daniel, when he saw the vision, he saw Christ get in the kingdom. When the vision was explained to him, he saw the children or the saints get in the kingdom. So it's the same thing. People think it's different. It's the same thing. This is why Paul actually go through his discourse, letting them know that we're all one body under Christ. We're all the same body, different functioning body parts, but we're all the same body under Christ. This is why we needed the New Testament to explain some of this Old Testament stuff. But the point we have is during the fourth beast, which is the Roman Empire, the kingdom is given to the people under Christ. So now the problem that people have with this now, because we have it in Daniel, it being foreshadowed. The problem we have is when people go to the New Testament, they can't see the correlation, or they can't believe what the Bible is saying. So we're going to go through it today, and we're going to go actually through the Bible. Now, Daniel 7 was about the Roman Empire. So do you know what part of the Bible is set under the Roman Empire?
No.
Okay, the whole entire New Testament is set during the time of the Roman Empire. So if we have a prophecy saying the kingdom was going to be given to the saints under the Roman Empire, you have to go to the Roman Empire sources to get more details. So we're going to do that real fast. But before we step into the Roman Empire, I got one more I want to read. Let's go to Malachi. Let's go to Malachi real fast. Let's go to Malachi 4 and I want to read 5. And let me know when you want me to start.
Okay.
All right, so this was happening. Malachi was actually on the scene during the Medo-Persia rule. So he's foreshadowing, he's giving a future prophecy. So this is what he says, Malachi 4, verse 5. It says, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I should come and smite the earth with a curse." So now, what was just been said, this happened during the Medo-Persia. This was the second beast. So by default, we only have 2 more beasts left. We either have Greeks or we have Rome. So the great and dreadful day of the Lord is the same day what people call,
The second beast is named what now?
All right, the second beast is Medo-Persia.
Medo-Persian?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And Malachi is making this prophecy under the second beast. And what he's telling them is, in our future, Elijah the prophet is going to come before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, which we call Armageddon. But he only has 2 beasts remaining. There's Greece and there's Roman. So now, we know that the Armageddon, or the great and dreadful day of the Lord, did not happen during the Grecian rule. It did not happen during the 3rd beast. So that only leaves the 4th beast. So, first thing we got to find Elijah, because Elijah was coming before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So first of all, just using logic, the Most High wouldn't send Elijah 2,000 years ago and wait 2,000 years in the future to have Armageddon. It wouldn't even make sense. He was sending all these prophets hundreds of years ahead of time, at the most, 200 or 300 years, but he's going to stop the way he do stuff, and he's going to send Elijah 2,000 years plus before Armageddon. It don't even work out. But now let's go into Matthew now. Let's go to the Roman Empire, which is Matthew. All right, first thing first, let's go to, give me 1 second. Hold on, let me see here. Matthew.
I thought you said the Roman Empire was Daniel 7.
It is incorrect. Daniel 7 is about the Roman Empire. But now the whole New Testament was written while the Roman Empire was in rulership.
Okay, so
All right, give me 1 sec. All right, I want to go to Matthew 11. I want to go to 13 and 14 real fast, and then we're going to go back. So Matthew 11, 13 and 14. All right, so now it says, for all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. So once again, for all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. So it wasn't supposed to be a continuation of prophecies after this era, because this is the Roman era. Right now, everything is wrapping up. But I want to read verse 14. And if if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. So Christ is telling his disciples that John the Baptist was that Elias, or in Hebrew, that Elijah, that was prophesied to come. So now we have the requirements needed for that great and dreadful day to arrive, because first thing first, Elias or Elijah came. He came under the Roman Empire, 1st century. So now, that's one thing we can scratch off our list, because that's a requirement met for Armageddon to occur. So now, I want to go to Matthew 10, and I want to read 22 and 23. Well, first, I want to read verse 5, and then I'm going to read 22 and 23. And let me know when you're there, when you're ready for me to start. Sorry, Matthew chapter 10. I'm going to read verse 5, 22, and 23. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, verse 5. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles. Well, I saw it at 7:30, 7:25. I look, you got to wait. I guess. It says, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. So now, I pulled that scripture to show you Christ is having a discussion with his disciples. So now, let's go to verse 22. Let's go to verse 22. And it says, and ye will be the disciples, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Verse 23. But when they persecute you in this city. See, right now, Christ and the disciples, they're standing in a specific place. Let's see if I can find out what city they was in. I'm hoping that this is Jerusalem, but let's see. Yeah, it look like it's Jerusalem. Matthew 9 and 1, and he entered into a ship and passed over and came into his own city. So now, right now, if this is not Jerusalem, somebody correct me. I'm thinking they're in Jerusalem right now. But what he's saying, when they persecute you in this city, so he's making it be known it's a city in front of them, or it's a city that they're all in. He said this. He didn't say that city. So he didn't say that. And he didn't put it in the future somewhere. He said, when they persecute you in this city, the city that you're standing in, flee ye into another. For verily I say unto you, once again, he's talking to the disciples. Ye, he's talking to the disciples, shall not have gone over the cities of Israel till the Son of Man be come. So Christ just told them, flee from persecution. But before you guys have reached over all of the cities of Israel, the Son of Man will appear. That same Son of Man that we read in Daniel 7, the Son of Man came into the clouds and the kingdom of heaven, and the kingdom was given to him. So now we have Christ telling his disciples during the persecution time, which is the tribulation period, during the persecution time, you should flee. But you would not have gone over the entire cities of Israel before I return. So, this is one problem we have. Either Christ lied to them, or they're still running right now today, waiting on Christ, or he returned when he said he was. That's the only three options that we have. Either Christ lied to them, they're still running 2,000 years later, even till today, or Christ returned. So this is just one section. All right, so now tell me what you think about that. Tell me where you at with that.
I don't know. It's just a lot to process.
Oh well, I know. Trust me, I know this is going to be a lot to take in right now. But I wanted just to make sure that we're understanding what the Bible teaches compared to what man teaches.
Yeah, well, I understand about him saying to go, to leave the city because he's getting ready to do something. He's getting ready to, I guess he's getting ready to destroy that city.
Well, he's getting ready. This is Armageddon. He's getting ready to bring that judgment. Right. But are you saying that the time period was they would not flee over the entire Israel, which means they would not have hit every city in Israel before his return. But that's just one. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's go to Matthew 16 right now. Let's go to Matthew 16. And I'm going to read verses 27 and 28. Yes, ma'am. Matthew 16, 27 and 28. All right, this is what it says right here. It says, "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels." So this should be sounding sort of like what we read in Daniel 7. So now I'm going to start again. "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works." So does that sound like Judgment Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's keep reading.
Yeah.
All right, verse 28. "Verily I say unto you." So now we got to find out who he's talking to. Well, once we go to Matthew 16, 24. Let me know when you're there.
I'm sorry, Matthew, what?
16 and 24.
2 verse back. Not 3 verse back.
16:24?
Got
it.
It says, "Then Jesus said unto his disciples." So, who is he talking to?
He's talking to the apostles.
Right, he's talking to his disciples. All right, so now, let's go back to verse 28. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Verse 28, it says, "Verily I say unto you, disciples, there be some standing here." So once again, he's giving specific markers. He's told them, some of you standing here, not standing there, not standing afar off, but standing here, which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
So he's telling the apostles that judgment is on its way. That's what you're saying?
No, not only that, but see what he said. He said
judgment is coming.
Right, but notice also though, he said
it hadn't came yet, but it's coming.
Right, but I want let's hit some of these markers though. First of all, he said coming in his kingdom, right? So the kingdom is the same kingdom in Daniel 7 when he saw the Son of Man get the kingdom. So this is the same exact kingdom. But notice what he says, because this is the kingdom of heaven right here. He said, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man come in his kingdom. So he told, not only did he tell them that they're going to be some, he didn't say all, he said some. So he not only did he tell them that some of them was going to be alive for that judgment, but some of them was going to be alive to see the kingdom of heaven come with Christ. So this is Christ. This is his words. I'm not making nothing up. I'm reading exactly what the Bible says. He told his disciples, some of them will be alive when judgment day occurred and when the kingdom of heaven came down to earth with Christ. That's what he said. That's what he said. So, I mean, that's not me. That's him. So, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. But I want people to understand. I'm online too. So what we gotta say is now, if anybody say that Christ is supposed to return in our timeline, in our future, the Bible does not teach 3 returns. It does not teach Christ coming to his kingdom over and over and over again. That's not what the Bible teaches. This was a one shot, one thing time. So with this one shot, him coming in his kingdom, that one time, he told his disciples they were going to be alive when it occurred. Not people 2,000 years later, but them. So now, I want to keep going because now people like to, people like to try to make this be about the transfiguration. So I want to read the transfiguration. So now we go to Matthew 17. And I'm going to start at 1, and I'm going to read all the way to 13. Okay? And let me know when you're ready. All right. It says, and after 6 days. So first of all, this was actually after 6 days when Christ gave them that prophecy. So if that prophecy was about the transfiguration, that means some of them had to die within that 6 days, which nobody died within that 6 days. Second of all, Christ would have never gave a 6-day prophecy. That never makes sense. So, but we're going to keep going. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. So now, Christ is seeing, this is all a vision. So right now, what Christ is doing and what John, Peter, and James is seeing, they're seeing a representation of the law and a representation of the prophets. Right here, standing with Christ. This is important because this is what's going on for my people who don't think we're in the new covenant. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses, and one for Elias. So let me make you 3 tabernacles. Let me make 3 tabernacles. One tabernacle for the people that want to follow Christ. Another tabernacle for the people that believes on Elijah and want to follow Elijah. Another tabernacle for the people who don't believe the Tanakh, that only want to believe the Torah, the Moses covenant followers. So he had 3 different tabernacles he wanted to make in order to adhere to every belief system inside of Israel. So now, verse 5. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. So, while Peter was going through his whole, let me try to make everybody happy and build up 3 tabernacle phases, the Father himself interrupted all of that and said, I'm pleased with my Son. He didn't say I'm pleased with Elias, or he didn't say I'm pleased with Moses. He said, I am pleased with my Son, and hear ye him. So, anything that Christ says is of importance, and we're supposed to hear him. Just like when he told his disciples he was going to come before some of them died, just like he told his disciples he was supposed to come before they fled over all of Israel. We're supposed to be hearing Christ and believe Christ over what anybody in America says. Anybody that's trying to say this haven't happened, that haven't happened, over all of that stuff, we're supposed to hear and believe Christ. Thus said the Lord. But let's keep going. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were so afraid because they realized they done messed up. But now, verse 7, and Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise and be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Jesus only. Verse 9, and as they came down from the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision, see, it was a vision, tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. In other words, don't tell the people just to listen to me and follow me until I arise from the dead. Because when I arise from the dead, the Mosaic covenant and the Mosaic covenant and the prophets are no longer ruling over Israel. Now I'm ruling over Israel with my new covenant. This is what's going on here. They could not tell nobody about it until Christ rose up. Because when he rose up, he rose with all power and authority, bringing in the new covenant. But let's keep going on. Verse 10. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? See, we just read the prophecy, right? That said Elijah will come before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, right? We read it in Malachi. So now the prophets or the apostles, they know this. They know that Elijah must come first before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So they're saying now something's up, because I'm looking at Christ and then I'm looking at Elijah. It's supposed to be Elijah, then Christ. So why is Christ first before Elijah? So now they're trying to see, I thought Elijah was supposed to come first. But look what he said, verse 11. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall come first and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist. So John the John the Baptist was that Elias that had to come first before Armageddon. Christ said that happened. Okay, things are not out of whack. It's not out of course. Everything the prophet Malachi prophesied, it happened just like he said. Elias came first, and now I'm preparing you guys. I'm preparing you all for Armageddon and the coming of my kingdom. So now, let's go to Matthew 24. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Now, the Armageddon, is that the fourth beast?
The Armageddon happens under the fourth beast. Armageddon happens under Rome.
What is the Armageddon is in the Bible?
Oh, yes, indeed.
Is it written in the Bible?
Well, Armageddon? Yeah, I think it's in Revelation. It's in Revelation. Hold on, let me try to find it real quick. I gotta Google it. And if y'all know it, y'all can chime in and set the verse up. The verse about Armageddon, I know it's in Revelation.
You know where it's at, John? Do you know where it's at, Armageddon?
Hold on, I'm finna Google it, but I got some people on the line right here. Everybody, what's that Armageddon verse in Revelation? All right, let's see here. Well, they quiet, so it's finna pull up. My internet running a little slow back here, but it's finna pull up. Here we go. My brother Alvin. Thank you, brother Alvin. He on it. Revelation 16:16. Yep.
Revelation what?
Chapter 16, verse 16.
Okay.
And it says, and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon.
Okay.
And they all are gathered here to do that great battle. This is that same judgment that Christ is telling them about. This battle was judgment, but we'll go over that in just a second. In fact, we're finna get ready to hit that right now. So whenever you're ready, we're in Matthew 24 now.
Matthew 24. Okay. What verse?
I want to start at verse 1. I'm gonna read from verse 1 through 3 real fast. It says, okay. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. So now, once again, Christ is talking to the disciples, right? Every prophecy we didn't see so far, he has relayed to the disciples. Now, the disciples, it was their job to relay it to everybody else, but he relayed all of this to the disciples to tell them what to look for. So now, and Jesus said unto them, verse 2, and Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So now, Christ is telling them about the destruction of the temple. But what caused this destruction of the temple? That same war that happens in Revelation that's called Armageddon. That Armageddon war is what is the part that destroys the temple. But now, let's read verse 3. And hold on, and the second coming didn't happen yet. Well, I mean, I'm reading, I'm going through the verses. So if you don't believe the verses, that's on you, my brother. But anyway, verse 3. As he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, see, they didn't want to address this in front of everybody. They wanted to talk about this privately because they knew what kind of reaction the people of Jerusalem would have given, because the temple was their center lifestyle. That temple was the whole aspect of the life of the Jewish people back then. That's their Mosaic covenant. Their Mosaic covenant is all entitled right there. So they had to come and talk to him privately about this. And the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us. Now listen to the questions which the disciples asked when he said the destruction of the temple was going to happen. Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Now the word world there, the translators translated it wrong. It's supposed to be age. It's supposed to be age right there from the Greek. But oh, y'all Bible, okay. Well, if your Bible say age, then you got the right translation. But
yeah, New King James.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm reading the King James. If I knew that, I would have got out my NKJV. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm on the road right now. So now, this is what they asked.
All right.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. This is what they asked dealing with the destruction of the temple. When will these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming? This is his second coming right now. They're asking him, what is going to be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So now, first question first. If his coming was going to be broadcast to the whole world, why would they need a sign? They would all just see him. See, this is the whole spiritual aspect that people don't look at. But what people want to do, they want to tell you that the disciples is asking 3 random questions. But no, the disciples understood what the destruction of the temple meant. They knew that they were in the Roman Empire. They knew they were under the 4th beast. They knew that that Daniel 9, 70 weeks had to be fulfilled. So they knew all of this stuff. They weren't dummies. They knew all of these prophecies had to occur. So now, remember, the Son of Man came back in Daniel 7, and the Most High gave him the kingdom. So now the disciples is asking him, when will that happen? When are you going to get that kingdom that we're going to be a part of? Because you done already told us that some of us still going to be alive when it happened. Now you're talking about the destruction of the temple. So now we need to know when some of this stuff is going to occur, because it's all supposed to occur before all of us die. So some of us is going to be allowed to see this. So they want more clarification. But now, this is what verse 4 says. And Jesus answered and said unto them. So now, Jesus answered their questions. Okay? He answered their questions. We got to understand that. He answered their questions. He did not leave not one question hanging. But you can read through some of this on your own. But I just want to hit some of the hot points. I want to go to verse 13 first. Matthew 24:13.
24:13?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm there.
All right, so now, hold on, give me 1 second. Armageddon is the war Christ declares against the Gentiles and the you might want to reread that Bible. But okay, now, verse 13 says, but he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. Now, Didn't we read that earlier? In fact, I'm gonna read Matthew 24 and 9. And then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then I'm gonna read verse 13. But he that shall endure to the end, the same shall be saved. So he just restated what he told them earlier in Matthew 10 and 22, 23. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. So he's going right back over with the same thing he already told them. But remember in Matthew 10, he told them that they should not have fled over all of Israel before his coming comes. So now let's see if he tells them the same thing in Matthew 24. So now let's go to Matthew 24 and 14. Are you right there?
Yes.
It says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So they asked him, right, what will be the end of the age? He just responded, when the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all of the world for a witness unto all nations, then shall the end come. So he just answered their questions. That question, when is the end going to come? When the gospel is preached to all nations. Why did the gospel have to be preached to all nations? Because the kingdom of heaven had to be broadened. It had to be expanded. It could not just be left in Jerusalem. The kingdom of heaven came with the gospel. So when the gospel is spread to everybody, then the kingdom is given to everybody. That's how the Christ was able to get his kingdom. He had to bring citizens inside of his kingdom. But now, so people say, well, we still, first of all, they want to say everybody around the whole planet don't know Christ, so that haven't happened yet. And then they want to say, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think that's the main one they run to. Everybody around the whole earth don't know Christ yet. But what they fail to realize is, first of all, nothing in the Bible has went past the Eastern world. The whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, has stayed in the Eastern world, but for some reason, right now and in Revelation, they expect that the Bible is just going to jump subjects and go around the whole globe, where and the rest of the 64 books is going to stay right in the Eastern world. That doesn't make sense. But let's go to Colossians 1. Let's go to Colossians 1. Let's
Uh-huh. Before we go there.
Okay.
So Matthew 24. 1 through 14. He was talking to the disciples.
Right. Well, 1 through
all of it.
Well,
I see on here on verse 7 saying, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. Sorrow. So all this here is, he's talking to the apostles.
Right. In fact, I think he was only talking to, I think he was only talking to 4 of them.
4 of them?
Hold on, let's see. Let me see real fast. Mark 13.
Mark 24.
Yeah, well, we're in Matthew 24, but I thought Mark 13 said who it was.
Okay.
Hold on. The Mark 13 and 3 says it was Peter, James, John, and Andrew.
Okay.
Yep. So that's who he was talking to: Peter, James, John, and Andrew. So now, which was not, first of all, it's not all of the disciples. So he was only talking to some of them. But
okay.
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 All right, so now, are you ready to because now, remember, well, once you go to Matthew 24:6, at the end of it, he say, but the end is not yet. But then when you go to verse 14, then he say, then shall the end come. So we went to verse 14 to see when the end was going to come. Because a lot of people want to go to the end is not yet. No, it's not yet in verse 6. But in verse 14, he tells you when the end is going to come. So I want to take you straight to the high part. So verse 14. So now,
I'm there.
All right, so now, sorry, Brother Alvin, I'm on the road right now. I don't know if you're talking to me or not. Let's go to Colossians 1. And if you talk to me, man, hey, just post them in the comments. All right, Colossians 1. And let's see what Paul said. See, a lot of people don't like Paul. They don't like going into that New Testament, but you got to go into the New Testament to see when some of these fulfillments is going to happen. Or you're going to be waiting forever for things that's never going to happen. So now, Colossians 1. Let me get there real fast. I'm tripping tonight. Here we go. Colossians 1, and I want to read verse 4 and 5 first, and then I'm going to read 23. So Colossians 1, 4 and 5, then I'm going to read Colossians 1 and 23.
Okay.
All right, so now, this is what it says. It says, verse 1 and 4. Chapter 1, verse 4 and 5. Since we heard of your faith in Christ Jesus and of the love which ye have to all the saints, for the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, wherefore ye heard before in the word of the truth of the gospel. Hold on, let me see. That wasn't what I wanted. Let's see here. Hold on. Bring it forward. Yeah, verse 6. Sorry, I got to go one more verse. All right, I'm gonna start at 5 and read verse 6. For the hope which is laid up for you in heaven, wherefore ye heard before in the word of the truth of the gospel, which is come unto you as it is in all the world, and bringeth forth fruit as it doth also in you, since the day ye heard it and knew the grace of God in truth. So now, Paul just said the entire world had heard the gospel. So now, let's go to Colossians 1 and 23. Colossians 1 and 23. It says, if ye continue in the faith grounded and settled, and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven, wherefore I, Paul, am made a minister. So now, Matthew 24:14 says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all of the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And Paul said, the whole world got the gospel. So now, that's another requirement met for the end to come. That's the second requirement. The first requirement, Elijah had to come. The second requirement, the gospel was preached to the whole world. So now, let's keep going on. Back to Matthew 24.
Matthew 24?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to read verse 14 and 15. And then I'm going to read 18. Well, I'm going to read 15 through 18. Hello? All right, now. 24, 15 through 18. 15.
Okay.
All right, so it says right here, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. So this abomination of desolation is spoken of in Daniel chapter 9, dealing with the 70 weeks. So now, then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. All right, so now I want to jump real fast. Can we go to Luke 17:31? Luke 17. I want to read verse 30 and 31. It says, Luke 17:30 and 31. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. So now we have another Son of Man coming passage. Verse 31. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. So we just read the same thing in Matthew 24. But in Luke, it says, when they're on the housetop, don't come down, because that is the time when the Son of Man is going to be revealed. Matthew 24 says this is going to occur when the abomination of desolation comes and they flee into the mountains. So you cannot separate them fleeing into the mountains when the abomination of desolation occurs from Christ's second coming. They're the same event. So now, we're going to find that abomination of desolation in just a minute. But now, I'm back in Matthew 24. Yeah, I'm back in, and the IUIC, the ISUPK brother, y'all doctoring been gone, man. We y'all, yeah. No. All right, so now Matthew 24, and I want to go to verse 20 and 21. It says, but pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. So when you got to flee to the mountains, pray that it be not in the winter, because nobody wants to have to run away in the winter time, or pray that it don't be on Sabbath day, because it's a Sabbath day. That's when they shut everything down. They close the gates of the city. You're not going to be able to get out. So pray that you don't, these ain't the situations which you got to flee into. All right, so now, verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So the Bible says that during that abomination of desolation, during them fleeing into the mountains, them being on the housetop, not coming down, during that time period, that's when the great tribulation is going to occur. So now, let's jump again. Let's go to Daniel 12. Let's go to Daniel 12 now. We linking all these prophecies together. Daniel 12.
Okay. Daniel 12.
And I'm just going to read 1 and 2. Daniel 12:1 says, well, I'm going to read 1 and 2. And at that time, Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. Now, let's listen carefully what he says. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that. You see that? Now that threw it in the future. Even to that same time. So once again, there should be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Now you don't have to move. I'm just going to read Matthew 24 again. Matthew 24 and 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So Daniel 12 called it a time of trouble. Matthew 24, Christ called it the day of tribulation. They're talking about the same exact time. Daniel said it's going to be in the future. Christ is saying this is when this is going to occur. But I also want to finish reading verse 1 and 2. Now listen what he says. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. So now, when did we read something about the judgment being set and the books being open? When did we read that at?
Somewhere in Revelation.
You're right. That is in Revelation, but remember we read it in Daniel 7. We read it in Daniel 7, right? We read it in Daniel 7.
Revelation.
Right, but we read it in Daniel 7.
Yeah. Daniel 7.
Right, because we read the judgment was set.
7, 9, and 13.
Yes, ma'am. We read that the judgment was set and the books were open, right? Now, during that judgment being set and the books being open, everyone found written in those books that were open, they were going to be delivered. Christ said, flee into the mountains. Daniel said, everyone found written in the book will be delivered. So now, when they go together, everyone who listened to Christ and fled into the mountain was covered by the new covenant, allowing them to escape. But now, I also want to read verse 2. You ready?
Yes.
And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. This is the resurrection. Right? That's the resurrection. And the resurrection was said to occur during the time of trouble. In Matthew 24, that time of trouble was the tribulation period. So, now, let's go back to Matthew 24. Matthew 24. And we could read all that, but I want to go to verse 29 now. I want to go to verse 29. And I'm going to read like 5 more verses. Then I'm going to go to Luke. And then we can be done and you just tell me how you feel. So now, Matthew 24 and 29. Let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
All right, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days. So now, this is speaking of the same time period. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, what days? The one of them fleeing into the mountains, them not coming down from the housetop. Those were the tribulation days. Not 2019, not 2020, but those days that surrounded the destruction of the temple. But now he said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give off her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. That's a lot of words he just said. So let's go to Revelation 6. Let's go to Revelation 6. Let's go to Revelation 6 real fast.
Revelation?
Yes, ma'am. Revelation
6?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hold on.
All right, Revelation 6 and 12 right here. It says, yes, ma'am. 6, and we're going to start at verse 12. We're going to read 12 and 13. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
It says,
I'm ready.
And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal. So this is the sixth seal. It's only 7 seals. When he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. So we have the same thing. Let me read it again. Matthew 24:29. The sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give off her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. Revelation 6:12 and 13. There was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth. The moon became as blood. The stars fell from heaven to the earth. So now, it's letting it be known that Matthew 24:29 is the 6th seal of 7 seals in Revelation. So the 6th seal occurred during the destruction of the temple in 1st century. So will the Most High wait 2,000 more years to open 1 seal? We got to ask ourselves this question. We got to ask ourselves these questions. But now, let's go back to Matthew 24. And I'm going to read verse 30. And then we're going to go right back to Revelation 6. All right, so now.
Matthew 24:30.
Yes. Hold on, give me 1 sec. All right, Matthew 24 and 30. This is what it says now. I'm going to read 29 and 30 so we can get the whole flow. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not get off her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. What did they ask him? What is the sign of thy coming? So now he's telling them, after the tribulation of those days dealing with the destruction of the temple, then shall the sign of the Son of Man appear in heaven. So now this is when my second coming is occurring. He's putting the second coming tribulation period. So now, rest of verse 30. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. That's what we saw in Daniel, remember? Daniel 7, the Son of Man came in the clouds to the Father, and he gave him the kingdom. So then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. He told his disciples in Matthew 16:27 and 28, some of you will still be alive when I reward man, every man, according to his works, and some of you will be alive when I come with the power and the glory of my Father. So now, if he told them some of them was going to be alive when it happened, do we think that he's going to change his mind and say, well, no, I'd rather do it 2,000 years in the future? You know, I take back what I told y'all earlier. No, let's see what he told them. Before we see what he told them, let's go to Revelation 6 again. And I want to read Revelation 6. I want to read 16 and 17.
Okay.
It says, and said to the mountains and rocks. These are the bad people. These are the people that Christ is coming to judge. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Remember, in Daniel 7, he came into the Ancient of Days, and the Ancient of Days gave him the kingdom and gave him a dominion, power, and all that stuff. So now these people are saying they can see the Father, and they know that this is the wrath of the Lamb. This is that great and dreadful day that was spoken of in Malachi, that Elijah came before it occurred. This is also that sign of the Son of Man coming in heaven. We're reading it all right here in Revelation 6 and 16. Hide us from the face of him that sat on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. Verse 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So the great day, it occurs during the tribulation period. That great wrath, that great day is going to occur, where it occurred during the tribulation period. So now we're going to find out what the tribulation period was. But now, I want to read one more verse in Matthew 24, and then we're going to go over to Luke, then we'll be done. Matthew 24 and 34. Let me know when you're there. All right, this is what he says. Matthew 24, 34. Verily I say unto you. Who is he talking to?
The apostle.
Right. This generation, notice earlier he said that. So he knows the difference between this and that. Christ knows the difference. He said, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. He didn't say one of these things. He didn't say some of these things. He didn't say 3/4 of these things. He said this generation, disciples, the generation that we're living in right now, this generation, not 2,000 years in the future when somebody in America want to pick up the Bible and read it and automatically assume it's about them. Not them, but this generation that I live in, that I'm talking to you right now, disciples, this generation shall not pass until all these things be fulfilled. So once you go to verse 1 through 34, Christ said all of those things had to be fulfilled in that generation. See, that's how he was able to tell the prophets earlier that some of them was going to be alive during the time of his return, because he knew that it was going to all occur during their generation. Now, he didn't give them the day. He didn't give them the hour. He gave them the generation. That's the point. They didn't have the day or the hour. They had the generation. Just like I can tell you, hey, you know, I'm coming to pick you up next week. We know in 2 weeks' time that I came and picked you up. I did not tell you the exact day I was picking you up next week. I didn't tell you the exact hour I was going to pick you up next week, but you know the time period which I was going to pick you up. I only had 7 days to choose from. In that generation, they only had a certain number of years to choose from, but they knew to expect all of this stuff to occur this generation. This is why in Acts, when they get the message, they can up and sell all of their things. See, we can't do that today. We can't up and sell all of our things and don't worry about nothing. The reason why they did it because they understood judgment was coming. I don't need these things. I'm going to listen to y'all and flee. They knew that. So that's why they was able to make a decision like that compared to what we make today. But we have that. So now let's go to Luke. Let's go to Luke 21, and this will be the end. Let's go to Luke 21. I'm just going to read 20 through 22. Well, I want to start at 6 and 7, and then I'm going to read 20 through 22, and then I'll be done. So let me know when you're there.
Luke 21, you said?
Yes, ma'am. Luke 21. I'm just going to read verses. I'm going to read verses. I'll read verses 5 through 7, and then I'm going to read 20 through 22, and I'll be done. Okay. It says, and as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come in which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So we just read the same thing in Matthew 24, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, so I'm just letting you know this is the same exact conversation. One of them was from Matthew's perspective, one of them was from Mark's perspective, and this one's from Luke's perspective. So now, and then Revelation is actually from John's perspective. But let's read what it says. Verse 7, and they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? So in Matthew, who said the end of the time, well, the time of the end, as well as your second coming. In Luke, he said the signs of these things and all that stuff. So it's two totally different things. But now, well, it's not two, sorry, it's two totally different ways of saying the same exact point. So now, let's go to Luke 21, and I'm going to read verse 20. And let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
All right, verse 20 says, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Verse 21, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So now, in Matthew, they called it the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel. And he said, when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel, flee. See, nobody knows what they're running from. Nobody knows what they're running from. They just know there's abomination of desolation. But once you go to Luke 21, he calls it not the abomination of desolation, but he calls it the army that causes desolation. So now, the abomination of desolation would be army, which is under the Roman Empire, which is the fourth beast of Daniel. So now, once you see the Roman army coming to destroy Jerusalem, flee into the mountains. Verse 22, let me know when you're there. Luke 21, 22. It says, for these, all right, yes, ma'am. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things, once again, he didn't say some things. He didn't say pick and choose what things you want it to be. He didn't say take your Americanized understanding and mess up my words. He didn't say none of that. He said all things which are written. So now, there was not a New Testament at this point in time. There was only a Torah and a Tanakh. So he just said, all things written in the Torah and the Tanakh. Let's keep reading. Verse 22, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So Christ just said, hey, you know those passages about the resurrection? Those are going to be fulfilled. You know those passages about the land promise? That was going to be fulfilled. You know that those passages about the 70 weeks of Daniel? That was going to be fulfilled. You know those passages about the heavenly kingdom coming down? That was going to be fulfilled. The new heavens and earth, that was going to be fulfilled. The mankind getting the everlasting kingdom under the gospel, that was going to be fulfilled. Me getting my kingdom, that was going to be fulfilled. Everything written was going to be fulfilled at this time. These are Christ's words, not my words. These are Christ's words. So once again, we cannot put Christ's return in our future, because if we do, that means Christ is not the Christ, because he lied to everybody in the past. And it ain't no 3 or 4 returns. We know that. So now we got to let the Bible say what it says. But now let's go to verse 27. Verse 27, let me know when you get there.
I'm there.
And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Verse 32, let me know when you're there. Yeah. We're finna, give me 10 minutes.
I'm gonna fix that points.
We ain't gonna have time. You gonna be ready in 10 minutes? Are you there?
Yes.
All right, it says, verily I say unto you. Who's he talking to? Amen. He's never talking to us. Amen. He's never talking to us. He's never talking to the people who pick up and decide to read the Bible in 2020, or the people who decide to read the Bible in 2024, or the people who decided to read the Bible in year 1100. He's not talking to anybody except the disciples. He told them, verily I say unto you, disciples, who standing in front of me, who I am talking to, having a conversation with, we're just reading the words that they taught. He's not talking to us. He's talking to them. We're just reading the conversation. So that's what he says. Verily I say unto you, this generation, once again, the generation that they was living in, this generation, right, yes ma'am, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Not, once again, not some. We can't pick and choose what we want out of these prophecies to be fulfilled. We can't do that. That's being dishonest to the Bible. That's being dishonest to Christ. That's being dishonest to the Most High. Christ said during their generation, about 2,000 years ago, everything he told them was going to be fulfilled. So we are living in the new heavens and the new earth under the gospel, not waiting on Christ to return, but spreading the gospel to different people who have not received the grace in the faith yet, expanding the kingdom. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be waiting on Christ. We're not supposed to be waiting on a resurrection. This is what happened when Gentiles got the Bible and misunderstood everything that the Hebrews said and the Hebrews taught, and they wanted everything more physical than understanding the spiritual aspect of it. And what we have today in America is the result of our forefathers, our Christian forefathers, dropping the ball. That's where we're at today. They dropped the ball. Now everybody still think Christ is going to return, even though Christ said throughout all of his prophecies he was going to return during the generation of the disciples. He said that the kingdom was going to be brought down during 70 AD, during the destruction of the temple. No more pain, no more death, concerning covenants, not somebody hitting you with a car and you dying. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about spiritual death away from the Father. He took all of that away so we can have access to the Father. We don't have to go through a Levite. We don't have to go through anybody in any type of covenant. Only thing we got to go through is Christ, because Christ is king and he's the ruler over the new covenant. But that's what I got. So what you got for me?
Okay, what about verse 33?
All right, Luke
21:33.
All right, Luke 21:33. Let's go there real fast. Luke 21:33. Luke 21:33 says, heaven, oh yeah, here we go. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. So now, I want you to go to Deuteronomy. Go to Deuteronomy. Is it 30? Hold on, let me find it. It's 20. Hold on, let me find it real fast. Let me tell you. It's not 20, it's 8. It's got to be 29. Let's go to Deuteronomy. It's in there. I just got to find it. It might be. Is it 32? Yep. Let's go to Deuteronomy. I want to go to Deuteronomy 31, and I want to go to verse 30 real fast. Well, in fact, I want to go to 29. Deuteronomy 31:29, and I'm going to read to 32:1. And we got to remember that these are Hebrews talking. So these Hebrews know Hebrewic stuff. These wasn't Gentiles. So we're going to go to
31. Okay, verse 29.
I'm going to start at 31:29 first.
I'm there.
All right, it says, for I know that after my death, you will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you. And evil will befall you in the latter days. So he's talking to them about what's going to happen to them in their last days, which will have to be under the Roman Empire, the fourth beast. Not past the fourth beast to America or EU or Ottoman Empire, but the Roman Empire. So this is what he's saying. Evil will befall you in the latter days, because ye will do evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands. And Moses spake in the ears of all of the congregation of Israel. So who was Moses talking to?
He's talking to the Israelites.
Amen. The congregation of Israel, right. The words of this song until they were ended. Verse 32, verse 1. Listen to what he say. Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. So what did he just call the Israelites?
Heaven.
And what else?
My speech. I don't know.
Well, let's go right back through it. Give ear, O ye heavens. So what did he call them?
He called them heaven.
Okay.
Oh, heavens.
And I will speak and hear, O earth. So he just called the Israelites heavens and earth, right? So he just referred to the Israelites using heavens and earth because they were their own system They were the chosen people of the Most High. They had the Mosaic covenant. They had that beautiful, wonderful covenant under the Most High. They had their own system. They was their own government. They was going to be the only people that the Most High ever needed to rule over by him personally, not going through a man. So they were that heavens and earth. They represented that heavens and earth. And guess what? Everything they built under them represented that heaven and earth. They was the heaven and earth. Their covenant was the heaven and earth. Their temple was fashioned using the heavens and the earth. The priest's garments, the priesthood, everything that the priest wore was a symbolic to the heavens and earth. So Israel itself, as a people, as a nationality, as a covenant people under the Most High, they were the heavens and earth. And Christ was letting them know, you guys and everything that you stand for will pass away before my words do.
Okay.
That's it.
Got it.
All right, I appreciate it.
But hold on now, hold on though. So tell me now, because I know this is just a lesson, and you know it's a lot of scriptures to go through and stuff. But do you kind of see why we say what we say?
I kind of see it.
Okay, that's all we can hope for right now.
I'll just have to meditate on it more, pray about it.
Oh yes, man. And I say, hey, all the scriptures.
I still have questions about the New Testament, though.
Shoot me one, and then I'm gonna have to roll. But give me one, then I'm gonna have to roll.
Why do we have why the Bible have the New Testament in here?
Oh, yeah, hey, I love that question. How else would you know all things have been fulfilled without the New Testament?
Okay, so that's the answer.
Right. The New Testament was for people to understand the beginning through the end of the story. See, in the beginning, the Old Testament gave you all of the promises. The New Testament gives you all of the fulfillments. So you have your promises and then you have your fulfillments. And then once you put them together, you have what we call now the Bible. We have the Old Covenant passing away and the New Covenant coming in. So without the New Testament, you will still be stuck under the Old Covenant with promises, waiting on something that was never going to come. That's why the Most High, this is my opinion, that's why the Most High allowed the New Covenant to come in, or the New Testament to be created. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And all I can say is I got this on live, and if you want to run through it later and like slow down and actually read the entire Bible chapters and stuff, please do, and just go through them. And eventually, you have no choice but to say, "Hey, I gotta believe Christ. I gotta believe it." The Father said, "Listen to my Son." I gotta listen to him.
Yeah, well, I have it all written down, all the scriptures you gave me.
Okay, then.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay. People today, they say that we are the last day. Now, we know we're not the last day. The Old Covenant is the last day.
Right.
So the question to you, how can you explain that they are the last day?
Well, what I would do, Mr. John, what I would do, I would take them right to Hebrews. And I say, first of all, was Hebrews written yesterday? And hopefully they say no. Say, well, when was Hebrews written? And hopefully they say around 62, 63 AD. All they got to do is a little research to find out when Hebrews was written. So then once we realized that Hebrews was written about 2,000 years ago, I would just read chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. And I just let the Bible speak. This is how you right. This is how you show them that the Bible last days was actually during the Roman Empire about 2,000 years ago. Hebrews 1 and 2. It says, God, who at sundry times in diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. So now he's saying in the old days, he spoke to, this is Hebrews time. So Hebrews was saying that in the old days, he spoke to everybody by the prophets. Verse 2, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. So now, it just put Christ living in the last days. It just put the Hebrews in the audience living in the last days. That's why it literally says, hath in these last days spoken to us. So if they don't want to see that the author of Hebrew was saying Christ came in the last days and spoke to us, then they have the problem, not us, because we know that it says these last days. And then you can take them right back to Daniel 7 during the fourth beast, which is the last beast, and Christ was born under that last beast, which that last beast has to be during the last days. So that's what I would take them. I would take them right to Hebrews 1 and 2.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, my brother, you did a real good job, man. You did real good. I can understand you very clear.
Well, I sure appreciate it, and it didn't take that long, about an hour or so.
Yeah.
Bet. Well, Mr. John, I gotta get ready and take my wife out for the night. So, hey, I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. And if y'all have any more questions, hey, let me know. All right, Mr. John?
All right.
And thank you for listening to me. And hopefully you'll join in a whole lot more, and we can talk about this kingdom together.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, y'all have a good night.
You too.
All right, shalom. All right, so now, hopefully that answered everybody's questions. Thank you, Brother Alvin, for being on. Everybody else, sister, I got your a request. I'm gonna add you on Facebook. Hopefully y'all understand the reason why we say what we say. Hopefully y'all do. So, I mean, the only people who's gonna really deny it is either the people that stuck in camps, can't get out of camps, then spend all your money going to them feast days you don't got to go to. You done bought all them fringes that you don't even got to buy because you ain't even under the Mosaic covenant no more. You refuse. You're tricking people into this polygyny, which polygyny is in our culture, 100%. But you're tricking people into doing it under the Mosaic covenant, which is absolutely incorrect. So, a lot of people got a lot of stuff wrapped into this misunderstanding. A lot of people don't want to start over, and a lot of people are just rebellious. They don't care. They use that Mosaic covenant for power, having people kissing your shoes and licking your boots and washing your socks or what all that stuff y'all be having going on that ain't got nothing to do with the Bible, ain't got nothing to do with Christ, ain't got nothing to do with the new covenant, it really ain't got nothing to do with the old covenant. So y'all just, it's a lot going on. A lot of people got a lot of stuff invested in all of the negative, all of the wrong stuff, all of the misconception of scriptures, and they don't want to say, hey, I had it wrong. Guess what? I was a Hebrew Israelite for 7 years, and I stopped because I realized I had it wrong. So We all can make it. Y'all see, I still got my Hebrew beard and everything. I love my culture. I love my people. Ain't no denying it. But Christ, the Hebrew, said when everything was going to come to pass and what we need to do afterwards. We're in the afterwards stage, what we're supposed to be doing. Not waiting on Christ, not looking at the sky. We're supposed to be doing our own things that he told us to do. And if you don't know what that is, then I ask y'all, man, we have Bible class all the time, man. Y'all can holler at me. You can holler at Brother Alvin. Man, we all brothers, man. Brothers and sisters, y'all can holler at us. You know what I'm saying? I know it get a little heated every once in a while, but, man, we out here and we trying to get as many people in the kingdom. And the only people just saying anything negative are the people that saying Christ is lying. Simple as that. They try to say that, you don't know what you're talking about, brother. I'm just reading the scriptures exactly what it says. Every once in a while I might explain it, but I go to the scriptures and show you exactly what it say without trying to add any outside commentary, and I just say what he say. If he says, I'm coming this generation, I'm telling people he's coming this generation. I'm going to outline the generation he's talking to. These are real conversations that we're reading. He's looking at people talking to him. We're just reading the dialogue. It's like a play. Anybody ever read a play? It's like a play. You read the lines of the play. Simple as that. He's not talking to you. When he says you, he's not talking to you. He's talking to the people that it says he's talking to. Most of it says the disciples earlier on in the chapter. And then for some reason, when you read you think it's about you. No, he's still talking to the disciples. But, we all got to start somewhere. And I hopefully that this is just one moment that make people just stop, relax, go back, reread a few things in the Bible and say, hey, man, that brother offered. That brother got points, man. But, it's only one gospel, You pick and choose what side you want to be on. That's about it. Anybody got anything else to say? I got to go. All right, y'all. Love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Anybody need anything? Add me on. This and that. Oh, yeah, we got a debate with Sakari coming up. We got another debate. I debated the brothers last time. Hopefully this time be a whole lot better because I know how some of the shuffle goes. So I just stick to my guns and the scriptures. But I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. May we all be in the kingdom of heaven together. May we all believe Christ and do what we're supposed to do on this earth. Shalom.